Okay, let us continue to character backgrounds. Now this offers you an option for something entirely different from combat, and it's a little bit more role-playing oriented. Again, I'm coming back to Critical Role because I'm really enjoying that program right now. But I believe they have kind of a character background with this little gnome guy named Chutney or Chutney, and he's a woodmaker, he's a cobbler. That's his whole story. And with this player's guide, as well as the campaign guide, you can have a tier system of advancement in your background, in your profession. So you could become, like you're just a little cobbler, and you work your way up to having a, wood shop and whatever. You got a whole world of role playing around your character background. So here you see some imagery on the background, a little bit of an introduction. And if you don't want to decide yourself what your character background is, you can roll randomly here on these pages and get some background. And again, the font, everything's cool. You got this little imagery here of what's going on. And so you can have this lapsed inquisitor, right? We had that inquisitor class from probably Castaneda back there. And this is helping you to get some good groundwork for your role-playing background of the lapsed inquisitor. You have the Fey Blessed, again, Weshelkind, or maybe a Fey transformation. This is giving you some good background for a character like that. Maybe it's a warlock with a Fey patron. So that's just a little bit of an expand. And then you got the advanced backgrounds, where you can start off as you are a beggar. You are the pauper. And you've got the beggar background where you just start off alone. But as you go through the ranks, rank 1, rank 2, rank 3, rank 4, you become the beggar king. What? So that brings in the whole element that's not only combat, not only heroics, not only go and double click on the quest, get the quest, fix the quest. That's bringing in a whole role-playing story. So you're going to want to connect with your DM on this, because if they're not unaware of what your background deal is, they may not know how to bring it into the story for you. So if it's something you're interested in, sit down, have a coffee with the DM and say, what if we take this path to the beggar? Or maybe several characters have that background. But that's just for the beggar under the pauper category. But then you have the vagabond with, Rambo. They drew first blood. You're just wandering into town. Hey, what are you doing in this town? Get out of here. You start out as the outcast, right? And you get these special features with your background. Then you become the drifter at rank 2. At rank 3, you become the seeker. And at rank 4, you become the wanderer. The wanderer. What was his name? Marius the wanderer. That would have been his background. He was the wanderer following Diablo. Or the pit fighter. That's super cool. What a story you would have there. The pit fighter. Something like, what was it, Brad Pitt? And in that movie, fighting everybody. You start off as a scrapper. You become the prize fighter at rank 2. Then you become the contender. And by rank 4, you are the arena champion. Maybe the arena champion in Castanea, where they have a little bit more the gladiatorial arenas and stuff like that. So those are all under the category of kind of the poor pauper. Then you can go into this category here, clan member. So then you're kind of this raider, right? The wildlings. You have the raider background. You can show a display of strength. You're a raider, maybe from the Grarjord. And then you become the shield bearer. And then the pillager, very Viking-esque. And then you become the Viking leader, the raid leader. Now again, we're combining this with a whole bunch of other stuff. You have character classes, subclasses. You have transformations. You have these backgrounds. And it's a lot to juggle, especially if you're playing in a campaign with 6-7 people. So you may want to tone it down on just who is going to be focusing on each sort of thing. because you can't have it all at once unless you have like 2 specialized DMs all working at the same time. But it's great to have the options, and if you're a smaller group of maybe 2 or 3 players, you can definitely delve into some of this cool stuff. So that was the Raider story. Here you become the warlord at the end of that, and then you have the shaman background here, so a little bit more druidic perhaps, with the spiritual guidance and dabbling. You're dabbling with forces that perhaps shouldn't be dabbled with. Primordial forces, earth, wind, fire, water, this sort of thing. So dabbling, then you become the hedge witch, the witch doctor, and at rank 4 you become the sage. So there isn't really a shaman class per se in Dungeons and Dragons, but following this background you could have a whole kind of shaman story. Maybe you're an elf from Toldemil. I believe that's what it's called in Shornault, and you were a shaman, right, for your tribe, and you've been called out on this spirit quest, and there you go. You and your DM have all kinds of stuff to work with there. Or you could just be a simple tribes person of the elves or the dwarves. They're kind of tribal, and then you have this kind of story here happening with the tribal familiarity. Rank 1, tribal member, of course. Maybe in your campaign you're kind of similarly 2 or 3 characters have chosen the same background type, so that might be easier to follow along the path. Rank 2, the hunter-gatherer. Rank 3, the elder of the tribe. And then you become the chieftain of the elves. Could you imagine? So those are some additional backgrounds. But if you don't have it, Player's Guide, a very significant portion of this book is dedicated to these backgrounds. If I can just bring your attention to page 70, we've got advanced backgrounds here like bounty hunter, all sorts of things. If you're working in the church, a librarian, a seafarer, and that goes from page 70 all the way up to page like 112. So all of that, you see, all of that is just backgrounds, advanced backgrounds. So it takes a little talk with your group to decide, like, how much do we want to focus on more combat, or do we want to focus on this background story, the wood cobbler, Chetney right now, right? Or the seafarer, this was a pirate. If we all want a pirate story, you get everything you need to flesh that out here. And you even get like little bonus dice, kind of like the Bard's inspiration, when you have to do something that's related to your background. So if you're a sailor, you would get some sort of little extra D4 and then a D6 and then a D8 to add to things related to the background of sailing. So that's talked about here as well with this talents expansion. So that's even more. Talents, the camper, the charity case, the looter, and so on. Different talents you would have. These are talents the pauper would get. And I believe this is where we're talking about getting that little bonus die when you're doing things that are related to, for example, gambling. If you were a gambler, you're going to get that talent die. So here we go. Our next section, chapter 8, archetypes. So you have your background, you have your character, you have your race, you have your class, and then you have archetypes. Like you're making a character for a movie or a TV show, one of your favorite TV shows. If you're into acting, into the theatrics, this can give you a whole bunch of good background to role play that out. It is a role-playing game. If you're a more strategist style of play, more focused on battles and finagling around with numbers and stuff, but maybe not so improv-like, you may not want to spend a lot of time here. But it can also be fun to just fiddle around with this solo play and let your imagination run wild, just building characters. Because I'm aware that some people play this game just solo, just spending time with the books and fleshing out characters and stories, and maybe writing stories about the characters and the world. So that's where this archetype section is going to help to give you more background. And you have, what are your ambitions? Are you ambitious, or are you disregarded in your background? So you have some lists that can help you there. And you also have this where you can roll to see if you want it to be random. Or are you the explorer type, and you have the explorer variant. Are you the philosopher? I made kind of this librarian human character from Castanea, who is a cleric, and he had to leave Castanea because their magics especially looked poorly upon, even if it's the angelic type and so on. So I'd look into this and help flesh out that character a little bit more. Gregorio is his name. And so he became an explorer. He's exploring north. Here you get the features from the explorer. Or are you one of the fallen? You used to be an angel, and now you've fallen from the disappearance of the gods. And this is giving you the help in the background for a fallen angel-like character. Are you a giver? The giver variant. Are you a giver leader or a creator? So you're kind of this philanthropist. Imagine playing this game as a philanthropist. You're just trying to help people out everywhere you go. Again, critical role, right? They have the little guy, fresh cut grass. He seems a little bit like a giver. Every situation, he's just trying to figure out what's the positive, nice thing to do in this situation, which is quite strange because often in D&D, people want to be a little sneaky or a little bit more like, a little bit more like Chetney, trying to be backstabby and stealing and funny like that. But this giver will help you flesh out this way to play the game. An icon, so like a rock star or a warrior, the icon variant of the warrior or the visionary, very much in line with the Viking path or the street fighter, the champion of the arena. Here you get more background there. Individualist, so you're just going solo time. That could be cool. Ordinary, I wonder what they would have to say about being ordinary. I want to play a character that's just completely ordinary. Let's see what happens with that. You could be an ordinary variant that becomes a hero. So just a simple lord or lady, and then things get fleshed out here. Were you a scoundrel? So a thief. Lots of great inspiration, if you watch anything on TV, Vikings, Black Sails, Penny Dreadful. I bet they go through a whole scenario like this just to get the background and flesh out a character. The scoundrel would always be fun in that way. And then you can roll in the random chart. You could be the unaffected. So you may know this or you may not, but there are several, we'll get into them in a different video, but plagues and diseases ravaging the land. One of those being the weeping pox. That's kind of the most dangerous of the plagues right now. That's come out of the area, what's that called? Near the port. Anyways, the weeping pox. I could find it here. Hold on a second. The weeping pox come from Lesich, just under the Burok Empire. Lesich, the Filtgrazer, unleashed these weeping pox, but you were unaffected. So what is that story going to play out like? You can find out here. And that concludes this section on the character building, the background building, getting a much more robust role-playing character under your belt. With that, look at the image on this page. The Lich King. You'd be going up against this guy, but with Grimhollow, you can end up being the Lich King. There's kind of a story going throughout this player's guide about that, about somebody becoming a Lich King. And here you get a whole new slew of really awesome spells. So I'm going to cut it there.